I'm Harry Hobson, President and CEO of Plymouth Harbor.
And I'm Karen Novak, the Administrator for Strategic Health here at Plymouth Harbor as well.
And with us today, we've got our Vice President of Facilities, George McGonigal. And we're going to bring George into the conversation here in just a couple of moments. So, but before we do that, Karen, why don't you give us the report as far as COVID activity here on campus? And I think you do have something to report.
We do. We have 2 positive team members, but they're from the same household or same family. We also have 1 team member that is under observation that was exposed to that person. All 3 of them are doing quite well at this moment. They remain in self-quarantine and will be back to us at the end of that 14-day period.
And Karen, also, I know the residents like to know from a big picture standpoint where they're located. And this is not in assisted living or the Smith Care Centers. It's in the independent area.
Absolutely. It is in the independent area. We have none of the regulated areas involved at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Also, George, thank you for joining us here this afternoon. And I thought it'd be worthwhile to just spend a few minutes with George McGonigal on the heels of a disaster that took place down in Miami, Florida. And it had to do with really the catastrophic crumbling of a 12-story high-rise condominium down there. And I know this is an ongoing search and rescue mission. And over the next few weeks or months, we'll learn really the cause of that. But you can't help but ask yourself the question, so Plymouth Harbor being a 24 or 25-story high-rise, also on the bay, Sarasota Bay, how have we audited ourselves, if you will, or how have we kept our building really in its best shape possible to hopefully avoid this type of incident? So, George, I know back in 2005, we brought a team in here from Tallahassee, and they did a total building audit. That was shortly after I arrived, and wanted that done. And I just, bottom line is, the report was extremely positive, stated that at the end of the day, at a worst case scenario, hurricane, Plymouth Harbor might be one of the only buildings still standing in Sarasota. It was a more detailed report, but it was very, very positive. We've made many improvements since then. And with the window project right now, we've only served to continue to strengthen Plymouth Harbor. So that's not an issue. But would you share with us the project that we concluded just a few years ago here at Plymouth Harbor and how we're planning for the future?
Yeah, Harry, I think something that our residents ought to understand is all of the structures at Plymouth Harbor are very well constructed, and they're very simple structures. They are post-tension concrete slabs supported by concrete beams and columns. And all of those elements are readily exposed. If there was ever an issue with any of those elements, it would be fairly obvious to us. Now, back in 2017, we did a major exterior paint project, which included doing concrete inspection and repairs of any minor defects that we had in those concrete elements. We found no elements that had been structurally impaired during that 2017 project. We did superficial repairs so that the elements would not continue to deteriorate. And the way that happens on a structure like ours is if you get cracks in that concrete and water is able to get into the depth of the member, you can have your rebar start rusting, it expands, and then spalls concrete off. And then that starts a major deterioration of that member. So it's very important that you regularly inspect and take care of those repairs. So all of that as of 2017 was taken care of. Now, our paint cycle, because we used a higher grade paint then, is every 10 years. So we'll repeat that same process that will include an engineer inspecting the building and us doing any repairs that we find at that time in 2027.
Thank you, George. And what I learned from that process in 2017, I learned quite a bit, but one of it was that when you talk about painting and sealing the building, it's first about the seal, and then it's selecting the right color of the seal. So, I mean, this is really very well protected. Karen, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No. I'm good. You know, I'm quite fascinated to hear what George has to say. The science of construction and the science of medicine is just a little bit, but they do rely on each other in one way or another. Not quite sure which way that is, but
Really?
yeah.
Well,
It's been a while since I played with Tinker Toys, George. I don't know.
Well, the bottom line for our residents and our team members is I don't think you could be in a safer environment and structurally sound building than we have here at Plymouth Harbor. Once we complete this window project, there's no place I'd rather be in a major storm event.
You know, I have to agree and say, just watching the Northwest Garden building being built, that alone kind of was quite interesting. Seeing those pylons driven down into the ground and all of those wires that were kind of being pulled. I'm sure they mean a lot to you, not so much to me, but it was quite fascinating to watch it kind of be built over the months. It was nice.
it was hard for me to get my head around Northwest Garden. It had 500 pylons in its base. And as you said, it went down nearly 40 feet to bedrock. So pretty impressive. But George, thank you and your team so much. We're fortunate definitely to have you here, and you're constantly looking out for all of our well-being and keeping us in a very, very safe environment here. So, and also appreciate you taking a few minutes. I know it's a busy day for you, but thanks for taking a few minutes with this video.
Absolutely, anytime.
And Karen, would you like to take us to the conclusion of this video?
Absolutely. We want to remind you when you're out and about in the public forum, please remember, do wear your mask. But in the meantime, we want to make sure that you stay safe, stay well.
And stay tuned. Okay. Thank you, everybody, very much. Bye-bye.